So I understand that. Like, I don't want to say like it's, they messed up or it's trash or anything like that, but it definitely, you could see, to your point about the orchestra warming up. They started to warm up after they rebooted, and I imagine it's going to start to really, really get good. So
Yeah, and that also I think parallels with a great transition into kind of No Rest for the Wicked, because it's one of those things where I hear a lot from players with Final Fantasy. It's like, oh man, I wish I had experienced 1.0. And while I think No Rest for the Wicked launched in early access has absolutely been incredibly stellar, it's makes me even more excited for the future because they don't have to go do massive amounts of rework to make the game playable and enjoyable and approachable to a degree, because it does have a challenge to it, which I really do appreciate. That Souls kind of, grittiness of like, yeah, this enemy, if you're not playing, you can't, just get lazy and just kind of run through and and just roll on everything all the time. But one of the things that I point out though, especially now when people ask, should you play No Rest for the Wicked now or should you wait for release, is like there's a magic that I find in kind of being a part of the evolution of any game, and that's
yeah.
speaks to Final Fantasy, that speaks to this game itself, is to see how it evolves, where it goes, where it was, to be able to say like, yeah, they tried that, it didn't work out, so then we created a different system. Or y'all remember when inventory was always capped at this number and how painful that ended up becoming, like having kind of those stories. Like back in my day, I used to walk uphill to school in the snow being shot at by Nazis. It's like, okay. It's like, all right, grandpa, thank you for that story. But like I do kind of appreciate having all of that kind of connected in, and having that experience. And yes, you do have a copy, so I'm very curious as to if you're going to be able to make time for that game at some point.
I do need to make time for it. I do. I have it installed on my Steam Deck as well because I'm like,
Yes.
this is going to be a great experience. And yeah, I mean, it's clearly launching in early access, right? So I think you
Yeah.
always have to go in with the right mentality. And I think there are definitely people that could play early access and just be done with it. But I feel like
Mhm.
most people who go into it, they realize this is a work in progress, and it is exciting too. You learn a lot about the game design and game development process by experiencing that as well. And I never played Hades in early access, but I remember hearing about that game almost like a year or 2 years before it came out full scale on Switch, and I can't imagine what that was like, but, it's because of the people that commit to the early version of the game where, you get such a, amazing experience after the fact. So, yeah, I love action RPGs. I mean, isometric ARPGs in the first place.
Mhm.
I started playing Souls games about 2 years ago, and I suffered my way through the first and third one. But yeah, this game looks right up my alley. I mean, to your point about getting lazy, like that's almost why I just ended up getting bored with Diablo 3. Diablo 3 felt so easy at a certain point. Even Diablo 4, I would have a pretty good build and go up to like the hardest difficulty and do nightmare dungeons. And I felt for the most part, I could just kind of cruise my way through. So I am curious. And what are your thoughts? Because this is Moon Studios, right? The
Yeah, this is
developer.
Moon. Mhm.
It feels such like a almost drastic change from Ori for them to make this game.
It is. They've stated that this game is going to be their magnum opus. Like
Okay.
they've been wanting to make this. They wanted to make it, but they also were like, as they were kind of getting, going, yeah, they found, real good success with Ori, which has got that Metrovania. I never really played the Ori
Okay.
series at all. And honestly, I have access to it. They don't own the Ori license. And so they don't
Okay.
know if they're going to be making Ori 3 or somebody else, most likely based off of their focus in on this game and success of this game, which I would feel like this game has definitely hit that level of success, that they're going to continue to kind of focus in on that. But they stated like this is the game that they've wanted to make. I think this is the game that the help found their studio, and they really wanted to kind of jump in and experience it. A Wild Chrono has joined in the podcast. What's up, sir?
What's up, gentlemen?
Hey,
Sorry,
Welcome in,
I was clearing up some stuff before I hop in.
dude. I get it,
Don't
man.
let me interrupt.
Oh man. So but that's going to be something interesting to see how with No Rest for the Wicked, how it evolves. They've already put out a roadmap. The number one question that I get, like I think on every video, is, hey, when do we know, or when would this be coming to consoles? Because that will instigate that it's out of early access and it's ready
yeah.
to release. But they also have said that they're going to be working on this 5-10 years after the 1.0 release, and that 1.0 will be their Fellowship of the Ring, which
Okay.
it's interesting terminology because there is such a grandeur, such a love for Lord of the Rings to
Okay.
start kind of set that kind of comparison, I think shows both a lot of confidence and what they've already delivered. I'm like, yeah, I think they're not, they're smiling on the inside because it's like you're like, oh yeah, we've got this, and now it's just a function of time. Chrono,
Yeah.
what are you playing right now, man? Why don't you give everybody an introduction to you, and let's keep going.
Well, yeah, sorry I'm late. Lately, I don't know, we just checked out the Fortnite Star Wars collab this morning, and that was fun. It's not as good as last year's, to be honest. Last year it felt like a bigger event. This year it just feels like here's some stuff you can buy, and that's the end of it.
Mhm.
And then honestly, just still working on Tears of the Kingdom because that game is really long and I get distracted.
Dude, I feel you. I'm waiting for the Switch too. Like
Yeah.
I stated, like I was like, oh, and it's like, yeah, you could hack it to put it on your Steam Deck to get it at 60 frames a second, and I was like, there's a part of me that's just like, I think I'll wait on the Switch too. But that's a perfect kind of transition to kind of talk about what Mark, you made a video talking about Switch 2 rumors.
Yeah.
Is there any merit to that? Is there anything that we need to, like, hang our hats on? Or because I feel like 2025, or is it that we've at the summertime, former E3 time,
Yeah.
that Nintendo just comes out on stage and been like, Switch 2, it's a thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one rumor that I did kind of, give that's the one I don't see happening, but there's the other aspect of, like, Nintendo typically has a pretty good timeline for first party content throughout the year, and